Well, hey everyone, welcome to NRF and welcome to this talk. This is Streamlining Your Tech Stack while Accelerating Digital Transformation. My name is Nick Patrick. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Radar, and we're lucky to be joined by a customer, Bhaskar Mishra, who's the SVP and Chief Product Officer at Michaels. And we'll introduce the speakers and Radar a little bit more in a second, but I wanted to start with a poll question. And the poll question is, did you feel pressured to do more with less in 2023? Let's see a show of hands. I see a lot of hands going up. That certainly matches what we've heard from our customers and prospects. I think a lot of folks talked about 2023 as a year of efficiency, and we're operating with tighter budgets, maybe in some cases smaller teams. Maybe they were asked to cut tools or consolidate tools that they were using. And at the same time, as we'll talk about in this session, consumer expectations have never been higher, market expectations have never been higher, and there's a tension there. So we'll be talking a lot in this session about how we think about navigating that tension and maybe some useful advice for the audience. Wanted to quickly introduce Radar. I would say Michaels probably needs no introduction, but for folks who aren't familiar with Radar, we are the all-in-one location platform. We power location use cases across the customer journey. So everything from store locators and address autocomplete. This is one of the things that Michaels uses Radar for as a cost-effective alternative to Google Maps platform. We can power seamless pickup experiences with live location, so live ETAs, arrival detection, as opposed to just scheduled pickup experiences. Location-aware app experiences like store modes. So we power the store mode for Dick's Sporting Goods. And so we're the only location platform that can power location-aware app experiences across the customer journey. Leading geofencing platform, so powerful geofencing capabilities, trip tracking for ETAs and arrival detection. APIs like address autocomplete, geocoding. And new for us this year, we launched Radar Maps platform. So maps and geofencing in a single platform. We'll talk a little bit about why we did that and why we think that's helpful for the market in this session. So with that, wanted to dive in. So my name is Nick Patrick. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Radar. I've been in the New York tech space for over a decade. Met my co-founders at Foursquare, so it's really fun to be here with NRF right in our backyard. And I'm lucky to be joined by Bhaskar Mishra. Bhaskar is the Chief Product Officer at Michaels, the largest arts and crafts retailer in North America. Bhaskar has previously held a number of really impressive product and digital roles in retail, notably spending 6 years as a product leader at Walmart and Sam's Club. And Bhaskar, thanks for joining us today. So I wanted to start by giving the audience just a little bit more context on you and what you're working on at Michaels. You've obviously had lots of interesting roles in your career, but talk a little bit about what prompted you to move to Michaels a year ago.
Thank you, Nick, for inviting me, and looking forward to a good discussion. I've been at Michaels for roughly a year, and the reason why I decided that I'll join Michaels is because of, firstly, the leadership team. So the executive management team is brilliant, led by Ashley, who's our CEO. Secondly, it's a really good brand because, ultimately, Michaels stands for creativity for families and individuals. And I keep hearing good feedback from everyone when I tell them I work at Michaels. Like, hey, I love going to Michaels. I took my daughter there. So it feels good when people resonate with the company you work for. And then lastly, there's a really good growth strategy. We're opening more stores. A lot of retailers are in trouble these days, but Michaels is growing with more real estate. And also we're growing our digital experience. So there's growth both in the e-commerce and the physical storefront. So for me, all of these reasons made it very compelling, which is why I decided to join Michaels.
Awesome.
Let me ask you this, though. Why did you start Radar?
Yeah. I mentioned that early on I worked at Foursquare, so that was sort of where I fell in love with location. I had the opportunity to go run product at a on-demand services platform after that, and we had to build a bunch of location-based features. Think of this company like a sort of Uber for home services. So we wanted to track where our workers were in the field, dispatch them to jobs, display live ETAs to consumers. So it was just really challenging to build. there wasn't a great full stack location platform available. So that was kind of the seed of the idea that prompted me to start Radar. Cool. Well, diving right into the discussion, Bhaskar, can you share insights about Michael's digital transformation over the past few years? What were some of the key challenges and breakthroughs?
Yeah, like I said, I've been at Michael's for a year at this point. At this point, I feel that there are three challenges, and we're working through them. We've made progress, but there's more work ahead. The first one is expectations from digital is pretty high these days. Amazon being the biggest, eBay being the oldest, and Walmart has also invested and grown a lot in the last 7 to 8 years. So when it comes to Michael's, the expectations are the same from our customers. So that was a first one, like make a really best-in-class digital experience. The second one is you cannot ignore your stores. You have to make sure that you are reusing things across different ecosystems, because stores are still a bigger part of our sales. So we need to make sure that the customers are getting a high quality experience no matter where they shop. And then the last part is we need to essentially hire and retain top talent. So Michael's is obviously a specialty retailer, a smaller company. So there are things along the lines of scope and breadth that you can get for a smaller company in comparison to, let's say, an Amazon and Walmart. So these are the three main challenges that I saw, and we've made progress. Last year was a big year for us. We launched a new e-commerce platform, a new mobile app. We launched a marketplace for professional sellers. We also launched a maker place for handmade goods because we feel that we have a role to play there. So digital did a lot. We also created common components like we think of them as extensible Lego blocks. Mm-hmm. So using e-commerce common components, we have scaled a self-checkout experience in the store. It's done really well. Associates love it. Customers love it. So there is a lot of usage between store and digital, which we've already done. And then lastly, from a hiring perspective, we've hired a lot of people and allocated them judiciously to the right areas. And we've also invested a lot in upskilling our teams so that they're able to be efficient. They also are able to have career progression based on their interest. So we've seen productivity grow up. We've also gotten better at retaining our talent. Mm-hmm. Progress in all fronts.
Yeah, that's really helpful. You mentioned Amazon and kind of heightened expectations. We talk a lot at Radar about the Amazon effect or the Uber effect. And, I, as a consumer, I'm sure a lot of folks in this room have something like 100 apps on your phone. And so the bar is quite high to get someone to download your app, to use it again and again, to put it on your home screen. And I feel like there's been an explosion of tools over the last 5-6 years to support innovation. And you mentioned Lego blocks. I feel like there's been a lot of different Lego blocks in terms of vendor solutions to choose from. And one thing that we've started to observe over the last year or two is more vendor consolidation. So starting to see more Lego sets for sale than Lego blocks, so to speak. Starting to see vendors combine with other vendors or roll out new capabilities. So I'm sort of curious if you're observing the same thing. How has vendor consolidation impacted the technology strategy at Michael's, and what sort of benefits have you encountered and challenges as well?
Yeah, vendor consolidation has happened. And you have to figure out ways to spend your money efficiently, but we always look at capabilities first. So depending on the problem you're trying to solve, you want to find, the main players in the market, and then understand the top 2 or 3 who could potentially solve the problem for you. And then once you've figured out, okay, ideally, this is the partner I want to work with, at that time, you look at cost. The trick usually that I've seen is that you need to budget for time and budget for testing cycles and do pilots, because a lot of times you will get big promises from vendors and they always won't come through. So you need to be able to pilot things to sometimes validate what you're hearing from the vendor, and also validate that while the capabilities are being met, the costs are also within range of what you had estimated. a lot of times you estimate a certain cost, but when you actually implement, it's like multiples of the cost. So you need to pilot it, like make sure like you have confirmed that the capabilities are giving you what you need, whether it's expense reduction or growth, and then also look at cost. That cost is also within range of what you had estimated. And like a good example I can give is actually with Radar. So we had built address validation. So e-commerce has address validation. You enter your address on checkout. You want to make sure that's the right address, and then you work with a fulfillment partner to get that to the customer. So what we saw was, as a cost-cutting exercise, Michaels had decided to build address validation in-house. So we bought the location data, but when we launched it, we saw that 15% of orders were impacted where we had no idea what the address was. So what we had started with turned out to be different from the reality. So at that time, we realized that it might be difficult to do this ourselves. So we looked at a variety of vendors. Radar was one of them. And as we did the capability assessment, we realized that Radar met all our needs, and you were also a fraction of the cost of some of your competitors. Mm-hmm. So we ended up launching address validation with you guys, and at this point, less than 1% of e-commerce orders are impacted, and the number goes down. All the edge cases are being covered. So at this point, we don't have that issue anymore.
Yeah. We've honestly felt a lot of our customers kind of pulling us towards consolidation. And, we started as a geofencing platform, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of those use cases in a second. But we had a lot of retail customers saying, hey, Radar, we've already imported all of our stores into Radar as geofences. You have all this address and POI data. Can't you just power our maps and store locator as well? And so we launched Radar Maps platform earlier this year to meet that need. But we're starting to see all sorts of MarTech platforms that might have been 2 or 3 separate platforms, combined into one. I think the same is happening with InfraTools. You talked a little bit about kind of tech evals, build versus buy decisions. Talk about, how do you handle internal resistance or challenges when you're testing new technologies or consolidating vendors?
Yeah, retail, I think there are probably a lot of people who are retail players in this room. So retail is a shared space. Internal challenges are standard because no one owns something completely. Everyone owns part of it, like whether you go to your distribution center, whether you go to your store, whether you go to e-commerce. So you have to work with others, which means that there will be alignment issues, resistance. But I don't think that's a bad thing because it forces you to critically evaluate what you're trying to do. In my experience, it's usually not difficult to build consensus if you have 2 things. If you have compelling data, like data wins arguments, I think I really believe in that saying. So if you can get data that is compelling, that persuades your partners, it's not that difficult. And then the second thing is you need to align teams based on common incentives. So if you're not doing that, then even you may have the best data, but because goals are not aligned, you will have a hard time. So usually that's what I've seen. In terms of the other angle that you mentioned, there is this whole build versus buy philosophy. So it depends on the player. So I spent a few years working at Walmart, great company, learned so much over there. So at Walmart, the way we would look at that was, depending on the problem we're trying to solve, how is Walmart positioned in that area? And a lot of times the situation was that it makes sense to build in-house because Walmart has certain customizable needs. You have to customize, and there is no vendor in the market who could meet those needs. So a lot of times that would happen. But Michaels, in comparison, if I compare the two, Michaels is a specialty retailer, so I'd much rather, depending on the use case or the problem I'm trying to solve, I'd much rather work with a mature player, get a mature platform which has all the capabilities I need, and then get it quickly so that I can drive value faster. So I'm very, very choosy about what's a build. Like a good example would be right now for store detail pages at Michaels, like those are very high traffic pages in retail e-commerce world. So currently these are being hosted by vendors. And in this case, I would rather we build the UI ourselves and get address data maybe from Radar, maybe manage some of it ourselves, but I'd rather host the front end, customize the UI, personalize the UI. So when someone is trying to get store information, store hours, I'm able to like cross-sell, upsell, do a bunch of interesting things so that the customer is aware. And it's difficult to do that if you don't own the UI yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's how we think about build versus buy.
That makes sense. Do you think anything around, something being a core competency or not, the amount of internal engineering and product resources you have, is it a function of company size? Like, where do you sort of draw the line when you make those types of build versus buy decisions?
Yeah, like you cannot do everything yourself, like especially depending on the amount of resources you have. A good example is we use Google Retail Search for our search backend, right? Because trying to build search ourselves in-house it's going to take us hundreds of engineers and like quite a few years, and even then we may not be able to get to what Google offers, as an example. So we use rich relevance and which is now called algonomy for recommendation and personalization, because again they're a mature platform. They have all the capabilities we need. So yeah, it's like to your point, it's core competence. I'm not trying to become a personalization player in the market. I'm trying to drive more conversion and sales for Michaels. So I would rather get somebody who is strong and really does that well and is a reasonable cost player instead of trying to invest those dollars and wait all that time. Mm-hmm. So that's how we think about it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We've talked about this being the year of efficiency, kind of need to cut costs, but also you need to innovate as well. And so curious to hear how you think about balancing cost cutting with the need for innovation.
Yeah, I mean, that's always tricky, but usually I think it comes down to like negotiating the right contract so that you have enough flexibility to be able to change, swap out players. So I'm always talking to new vendors to understand what's out there in the market and to be able to filter out, okay, like, is there an incrementality that I can generate compared to what I have at Michaels or in my prior life at Walmart. So I'm always talking to them and trying to understand capabilities, trying to understand what we have versus what we don't have, and what the value of that looks like. So we always do that. It really comes down to the specific use case, and if I'm able to convince myself and then convince my partners that is this worth exploring, and what is the opportunity cost there, mm-hmm. and based on that we arrive at decisions. And then you mentioned innovation, so like innovation is possible for sure within the cost constraints. So for example, like curbside pickup became a big thing over COVID, and most retailers have seen adoption stay. Those habits have changed. So we also see that at Michaels. We see that that a lot of our customers are doing curbside orders. But right now, for example, we have a 4-minute wait time. So like, when you're waiting for your order in your car, and 4 minutes feels like a long time. You probably have your kids behind, which is why you did curbside in the first place. And you're looking at your watch thinking, when will my order get there? So that's where I think you can come up with you can partner with vendors to be able to solve that problem. And in that case, again, like we are evaluating that pilot with you guys to see that, okay, 15 minutes before the customer gets there, we let the store associate know that the customer is 15 minutes away, so that we cut that 4-minute wait time to 2 minutes or less, which is again a delighter experience, right? So and like we all see, we all are used to delighters now. No one wants to wait, right? And when you're able to give that compelling value prop, you are innovating. You're also like making your customer feel good.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. We were talking about this a bit before this session, but I think team is also important. And one thing that's been kind of counterintuitive maybe for us over the last year is we've been really disciplined on hiring, and honestly, leaner teams in some areas have helped us kind of make decisions faster, move faster. We found that some of our kind of most productive, innovative new product work streams have come from work streams led by engineering managers that sort of double as designers or product managers. So we've been thinking about how we collapse the talent stack, work with smaller teams, and that helps us ship faster as well. I guess looking at the clock, we've got about 10 minutes left, so we can maybe do one or two more discussion topics and then take some questions if time. So, you mentioned curbside, you mentioned understanding, in-store app opens. I'm kind of curious, obviously we think a lot about geofencing at Radar. It's a hot topic here at NRF this year. How have you seen geofencing applications in retail evolve? Where do you see things going over the next few years? How do you think that plays into some of the, vendor consolidation topics we've been talking about?
Yeah, like I worked at 4 different retailers at this point, so pretty decent breadth of experience. So retail e-commerce, geofencing definitely has a role to play, but what I've seen is that most retailers struggle because geofencing for the sake of geofencing doesn't work. The key is to get the customer to engage. And like I can give 2 examples. The first one would be from my time at Sam's Club and Walmart. So I was part of the team that built Scan and Go, which is essentially cashierless mobile app checkout. Like you can just scan on your phone, pay through the app, and walk out. You don't have to stand in line. So the usage, more than 4x from like 2019 levels through the COVID times, because customers and Sam's Club members found that compelling. So it was laser focused on solving a really good problem for the customer. And geofencing was critical because without that, like you're in a 150,000 square foot warehouse, it's an old building, signal strength is bad, Wi-Fi is not always there. So how do you create a good experience that is geofenced that works well? So that's a good example from my time at Sam's and Walmart. Now at Michael's, we are currently in that evaluation phase, trying to, so my team is getting data, working with you guys because you're helping us with the SDKs. So essentially, what I want to understand is that when a customer is opening the mobile web or the mobile app experience of Michael's, let's say in a Michael's store or one of our competitor stores, what are they doing? Are they checking price? Are they looking at the expanded assortment because they want to look at more options? Or is an item out of stock in the store? Or are they just looking at their loyalty rewards? So we're in that evaluation phase to understand what is it that a customer is trying to do in the store environment, so that again, we can surgically solve for like building curated experience based on those needs. So that's how we're looking at geofencing at Michael's.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think you mentioned earlier that, data wins arguments. And I think in a year when, budgets are tightening or budgets are flat, you need to be able to articulate what value are we getting out of this data. Collecting data for the sake of collecting data kind of doesn't necessarily make sense. And so I think, the ROI needs to be really clear. We've seen geofencing evolve from just, kind of background centric, marketing centric, push me a coupon when I'm near a Starbucks type use cases to, the examples you gave are much more kind of integral to the app experience. At the end of the day, it's all about delivering a great customer experience. So, in-store experiences, location-aware pickup experiences, but again, thinking about delivering a great customer experience and being able to quantify the ROI. And I think in a time when tech stacks are getting consolidated and folks are cutting tools, focusing on tools that provide really clear ROI is really important as well. I guess last question for you, Bhaskar. We talked about 2023 as the year of efficiency. Do we think this trend continues through 2024 or 2025? How are you all thinking about that?
It will. I think based on what we're saying, usually when inflationary environments happen, COVID was weird time. People were spending money very differently. There was stimulus checks, which also drove a lot of retail growth. But then naturally, when those unnatural circumstances go away and people don't have as much spending power, and people are spending more on experiences, you will see demand go away. So naturally, budgets will get adjusted because your sales are not going to be the same because the steroids are no longer there to drive sales for everyone, right? So I think it'll continue. For maybe my hope is it ends this year, but maybe that might drag on for a bit. But yeah, like I do see efficiency being a key outcome because everything is going to get scrutinized. Everyone has to demonstrate profitability. But I don't think that if you're able to demonstrate incrementality, costs can always be negotiated internally within the budget. So that's where I think that retailers will continue to look for incremental opportunities to spend because the budgets are still fairly decent. So while yes, you need to continue to spend with your current partners, there's always that room within the budget to find, okay, if I'm looking at 20 options, 20 different problem statements, I found compelling opportunities with 2 partners for 2 or 3 of them, which can be brand new partners that I bring in for the year, right? And the cycle of contracts is such that you have yearly renewals. So depending on who the partner is, if you're getting a better opportunity with a new partner and the contract is up, you can always move to somebody else.
Yep.
So I think all of these will continue to happen to drive profitable growth.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I think 2023 seemed to be about tightening the belt. I think efficiency is going to continue to be paramount, but I think 2024 is going to be more about efficient growth. And so I would expect brands and vendors to kind of take a more balanced approach this year. But I don't think we're going back to the days of wild spending. And cool. Well, we have 3 minutes left. Happy to take a question or two if folks have burning questions. Yeah, go for it.
Hey, nice to meet you. My name's Michael. I'm with a company called OneRail. I'm curious, what would you say are the top organizational strategies or initiatives that you're solving yesterday?
And do you mind repeating the question too?
Sorry, could you repeat could you speak a bit?
What are the top organizational strategies or initiatives that you're looking to solve for yesterday?
So the question is, what are the top organizational strategies for things that we wanted to solve yesterday or initiatives that we wanted to solve yesterday? So the strategy is to look at data, right? When you fund teams and allocate them to the areas that are material to the business, and you're funding them in the right way, all of them will look at their area of opportunity to bottoms up, come up with, here are the 10 things that could materially move the needle. So, and then you consolidate and view and say, okay, these are my top opportunities. This is what our near-term strategy is. So sometimes you have to make sacrifices and not do it, even though the opportunity is great because our priority as a company is slightly different. So that's how we solve that problem. And it's painful to not do everything, but that's the job, right? You have to choose where you want to spend those dollars.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, I think we can end it here. We'll probably hang out outside the session room for a couple minutes if folks have questions. But Bhaskar, thanks for doing this. Thank you to you all for attending. If you want to talk about location, feel free to visit us at radar.com. We also have a booth 3962. And yeah, thanks so much. Have a great NRF.
Thank you.